Suella censors ceasefire. The stupid shit. These are the interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and the show is The Interesting Times, which looks and laughs at UK politics. So it is Remembrance Sunday this week. Unfortunately, there won't be an Interesting Times out on that day. So I thought I would have this opportunity to wear my poppy. Now, people can obviously choose to wear it or not for different reasons, but it's mainly as a remembrance to the sacrifice that people have made and indeed are making. And as a prayer, if you will, that in the future all war, and yes, by that logic, all soldiers will become redundant. For others, it has a more personal connection, remembering those who died not only in the world wars, but also those that made a sacrifice in the culture wars.
I'm wearing my poppy with pride, and I don't care who I stand in front of, I'll always wear it.
You're standing in front of a door, you granite-headed fart face. Actually, that poppy is looking rather fresh, bearing in mind that it's over a year old. Hope Lee's remembered to make a contribution to the British Legion this year. The new poppy is all paper. What a clever idea.
This year, you can mark remembrance by wearing the new plastic-free poppy. After Remembrance Sunday, or whenever you feel ready, the plastic-free poppy can be easily recycled at home.
Yeah, no point fighting for your country only to lose it to climate change. That would just be incredibly careless. Although, not everyone's happy with the new design.
Now, the interesting thing about the poppy this year, of course, is made from 100% recyclable paper. Now, we haven't seen one of them yet, but the thing I like about the old school one I'm wearing here is that the plastic goes straight easily through your lapel notch.
Yes, I just think there are a lot of hypocrites. They say one thing, bow their heads in respect for all those young men that died. And what are they doing to our country? What they fought for was freedom. My dad was a prisoner of war for 3 years.
Yeah.
What would he say if he was living now?
And do you approve of the poppy having no plastic in it?
No, I do not.
My granddad fought and died for the right to stick a bit of plastic in your lapel. Also, something to do with defeating fascism. That bit's not important. Also worth remembering that the plastic poppy was only really brought in as a more environmentally friendly alternative to actual poppies and ripping live flowers out of the ground. But the never-ending question is when to wear it and when to stop wearing it. A few days before and stop after Remembrance Sunday? Start a week before, like me, and look like a virtue signalling plastic patriot? What's next? Tiny Union Jacks in the background? Or do you put it on in the morning to look statesmanlike when talking about Gaza and take it off in the afternoon when talking about Islamophobia Awareness Month? A lot, some might say too much fuss being made over this one as to why Keir Starmer wore it then took it off, and a belief that he did so as not to upset Muslims. I'm hoping that's not the case, because if it was, it would be stupendously stupid. As far as appealing to the Muslim demographic, wearing or not wearing a poppy is not really at the top of the list of their concerns. That whole possible genocide in Gaza, which you're backing, is. It is possible to wear a poppy and back a ceasefire, but don't take my word for it. Take it from the guy whose job you took. Which moves me carefully treading on to this bit.
Our main news this morning is about police considering whether to ban this pro-Palestinian march, which is planned to take place in London on Armistice Day.
Yes, the Palestine protest happening on Armistice Day. And here with his take, the piss, is GB News' Patrick Christie, wearing his poppy. A paper one, the bloody hippie.
Look, I support the right to protest. I support the right to have voices heard. And I understand that people feel incredibly strongly about what's going on between Israel and Hamas and the plight of people on both sides of that conflict. Can't they have a weekend off? Isn't that common decency? To remember the people who fought and died for their right to be able to have these kinds of demonstrations.
Pretty sure that's what they're doing, having a ceremony to remember the people that died.
I think this is a visible sign that some people must not feel proud to be British. If they truly felt pride in our country, there's no way they'd have a demonstration. I don't think that Anybody who felt truly British would spend the Remembrance weekend surrounding the cenotaph, climbing on statues, letting off flares and chanting from the river to the sea.
Exactly. On Remembrance Sunday, if you're truly British, you'll spend Remembrance Sunday in your underpants, stuffing Saturday night's pizza down your throat, watching Mission Impossible 27 before going, oh shit, 11 o'clock, 2 minute silence, what time is it? Oh well, I don't think anyone else has done it. I'll remember for next year. What we really need is a bit of patriotism, like these guys. Okay, yes, it's funny. The chap pretending to look heavenward in a rapturous patriotic moment when it's clear he just doesn't know the words. And this chap who's clearly Googled it on his phone and still gets it wrong. But I've been struggling all day with this. What is the next line after Land of Hope and Glory? Does anyone know? I don't think even Elgar does, and he wrote it. I did Google it, and it just said, not sure. Have you tried Bing? I thought, God, I'm not that desperate. The thing is, I'm kind of surprised that GB News and the Daily Express aren't more in favour of having the Palestine flag draped over everything, considering its colours. It's got the poppy colours on it, red, green and black, and their favourite colour, white. But you won't be surprised to know that this is a lot of fuss over something that isn't really happening. The protesters aren't going anywhere near the cenotaph or Whitehall. You can call off the army. By the way, having the army suppress a peaceful protest by people wanting a ceasefire does feel quite World War II, just not British World War II.
Anybody who thinks that disrupting the cenotaph, the Remembrance Day commemorations is going to attract people to their cause is clearly bonkers. I hope they respect the solemnity of the occasion.
I think the protesters have said that they won't disrupt it. They're keen to do that, and it's going to be happening on the Saturday rather than the Sunday.
Exactly. It's no more ruined Remembrance Sunday than Christmas Eve has ruined Christmas Day. It's Boxing Day. That's what ruins Christmas, when you find out what, if anything, you've got. Oh, good. Jeremy Clarkson's new book, How to Kill Foxes in an SUV While Suffocating Climate Activists. Thanks. Did you keep the receipt? Honestly, I'd rather have a bottle of yellow gin. So, on to the elephant in the room, which is the pro-Palestine marches, which are hate marches, apparently.
I think I've been pretty clear that these are hate marches. To my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches.
Is that a good description? Or is that likely to cause tensions and violence by referring to them as that?
So I wouldn't necessarily use that language, but let me say this. What we've seen on those marches in incidents is incredibly hateful behaviour, whether it's people chanting jihad, jihad, whether it's people with signs with a Star of David and putting that in the bin saying clean up the world.
Whether it's people holding up signs demanding that we stop bombing children. Honestly, can't you put a please in front of it? Manners cost nothing, you know. But why the phrase hate march?
Marches.
What is a hate march?
Yeah. She's picked two words out of the English language and strung them together in a way.
To be fair, she's got form.
It's the Labour Party, it's the Lib Dems, it's the Coalition of Chaos, it's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokerati.
So, it's a noun and a verb, like shit-talking, gammon goading and pointless posturing. Speaking of which...
On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, in 1918, the guns fell silent on the Western Front and all the other theatres of war. It is a very, very important moment in our national story. Should this march go ahead, and especially should it be allowed to go down Whitehall past the cenotaph? I have said before, to great criticism, that I've worried in the past about a lot of people coming into Britain with whom we have no shared history. I think this march should be blocked Mayor Khan has said precious little about it.
So, sickness-eyed perversity of a man hugely responsible for the UK leaving the biggest peacetime project since the Second World War, and one that Winston Churchill was heavily involved in, some fact-checking. It's not going past the cenotaph. It's not starting till after 2, and Sadiq Khan has no say in whether it goes ahead or not. And as for us having no shared history, here's another noun and verb for you. Balfour Declaration. And it wasn't the 11th hour. The gun stopped firing at 5 a.m. But try getting a train for that time in the morning. So it was already the 11th day of the 11th month. Make it 11 a.m. and call it Remembrance Day. And that just makes it easier. In fact, America didn't officially call the war off until 1921. But I'm guessing that's because they joined 3 years late. The point is that as wrong as you are about all that nonsense, Nigel, the biggest thing you're on about is that on Saturday the 11th we celebrate Armistice Day. Armistice Day. We are getting angry about people calling for a ceasefire, which is described in the dictionary as an agreement usually between two armies to stop fighting in order to allow discussions about peace, because we don't want it to mess up Armistice Day, which is a formal agreement between two countries or groups at war to stop fighting for a particular time, especially to talk about possible peace. I think this calls for another noun and verb. Fuck me. Still, there are some sensible people out there. Unfortunately, they're the ones calling in radio stations.
I'm ex-services. I served in the British Army a few years ago. I've got friends that never made it home. And when we were fighting for the freedoms of everyone that was in the country and freedoms of people in countries that we were in. And by them saying you're no longer allowed to protest on a specific day, that's undermining the freedoms that we went over there fighting for in general. So they can't send us to fight for freedoms, but only the freedoms that they choose that they want us to fight alongside.
Indeed. Stopping protests is not really in the spirit of the freedoms fought and in some cases died for. These aren't hate marches. In fact, if you want to see a hate march, you should have gone to Lewis on bonfire night. So, you're probably sat there thinking, well, this is about as rock bottom as a story involving Suella can get this week. Going down.
Founder of the Big Issue, Lord Bird, says he was astonished by the Home Secretary Suella Braverman's statement that many people who are living on the streets in tents are doing so as a lifestyle choice.
Yes, a lifestyle choice. You know, like eating more greens or signing up to your local gym to give you somewhere warm to sleep.
Do you concur with the Home Secretary that living rough in a tent is a lifestyle choice?
And I think the reasons that people get into that position are complex and very varied. So I wouldn't necessarily use the language of lifestyle choice. I think actually in her tweet and thread, she distinguished that a lot of people who end up in that position are struggling, for example, with addiction issues.
She didn't put that in that tweet.
You acknowledge it's not a lifestyle choice.
So I think she was talking about different things. So she acknowledged that there are people who, they need our compassion.
I'm pretty certain she's never used that word ever. Certainly not sober. There's another reason, though, that this weekend is particularly bad timing to use phrases like lifestyle choices to talk about the homeless.
It tastes so bitter to me that we go, oh, it's one important day, when because of the cost of living crisis, there are veterans too scared to heat their homes, and we think we're actually protecting them. There are veterans who haven't got enough money to eat. And here we are going, one day we'll remember this is the most important day. It's ironic. Politics just twists itself. Let's show some proper respect for the veterans.
And I've met thousands of people. You'll occasionally meet an old soldier or somebody like that, or somebody with mental health problems who says, I don't want to go into a hospital. I do not want to be administered by the state.
In fact, the last estimate put about 5% of London's homeless having a military background, rising to 6% around the country. But don't worry, Johnny Mercer's on the case.
by the end of this year, I don't want to see a single involuntarily sleeping rough homeless veteran in this country. The numbers are not where people think they are. They are manageable. There's something we can do about it. There should not be any veterans involuntarily sleeping rough in this country by the end of this year, and you can hold me to that.
Of course, he did say in July that military personnel using food banks is down to personal decisions around budgeting. You know, like a lifestyle choice. So I guess Sunday is the equivalent of banging our pots and pans for the armed forces. But the problems of the veterans are the same as the civilians. Property not being built and a cost of living crisis making mortgages and renting unaffordable. And as this graph shows, it's gotten considerably worse since 2010. So we just need to make sure that whatever happens, we do something different in 2024 than we've done for the past 13 years. Any ideas? And that's it. Thank you all so much for joining me. And if you've enjoyed these vids, feel free to like, comment, share and subscribe. Oh, and do please hit all the notifications bells so you don't miss another. And I'll see you all very soon. Take care, and whatever you're doing next weekend, please do stay safe.